Good morning, learners. Welcome to the BFST class of English again. This is the official YouTube channel of Department of English, Government College Sirohi, and I am your teacher Renuka Verma. In today's class, we're going to talk about the essay "Detached Thoughts on Books and Readings" by Charles Lamb. So, like his other essays, Lamb has written this essay by his name, by his pseudonym Elia, and he's talking about his ideas regarding books and readings. What kind of books should be chosen, and what is the meaning of choosing a good book, and what implies when we distinguish between a good and a bad book. So, Elia, that means Charles Lamb, opens the essay by an epigraph by Lord Foppington, and he says that reading a book is effectively entertaining oneself in another man's mind. So when one opens a book or reads a book, that means that that person is entertaining himself in another man's mind, because he is gaining the ideas from another man's mind. So his mind is entertaining itself with another man's mind. So again, with a touch of irony, he says that he dedicates a sizable portion of his time to other people's thought. That means he reads books a lot and he entertains himself by reading another man's mind, by involving himself with the thoughts of other authors. And further, he says that he cannot sit and think, but that books think for him. So whenever he sit and read books, he does not pass his time by sitting and thinking, but he rather involves himself in reading the books by other authors, and that is how the books think for him. So he doesn't have aversions to any author. So Lem is confessing that he does not dislike any other author and will occupy himself with all sorts of texts. So he likes reading. He likes occupying his mind with all sorts of books and texts, be there directories, almanacs, court calendars, and so on. So he likes reading all the stuff of texts. Further, he says that a book's ideal state is to be well constructed, and that its magnificence as a text is secondary. So he says that how a book is constructed, the content matters more than the outer appearance, okay, than the magnificence of a book, than the outer appearance of the book as a text. So it is a secondary thing. And why he says so? He says so because not every book should be dressed magnificently, not even the works of Shakespeare and Milton, unless they are first editions. So why? So the works of Shakespeare and Milton are not magnificent because they are little beaten up. Okay, they are beaten up and they fade up because of their over reading. So he goes on to extol books that are a little beat up, and he talks about how books look best when they are well read and dog-eared. That means if a book looks a little beaten up and worn out and faded, that means it is well read and very much talked about. And if a book looks a little worn out, that's because it has been well read. And what more could someone desire of a book? So whenever you choose a book from a library, if it doesn't look magnificent and very desirable, that means it is well read. It is a little worn out and it looks old, that means it could be a good book because of its over reading by multiple people. And again, Elia, that means the pseudonym of Charles Lamb. So Elia says that a better book is the less it demands binding. The better a book is, the less it demands binding. So if a book is a better book, a good book, it doesn't need so much binding. So good and rare books are the ones to perish exactly because they are read so much that they begin to wear away. So that is why when we go to a library and we see some books which looks very dirty and very worn out, that means those books could be very well read, and that is why they perish very soon. Then he talks about the authors whose books only exist as reprints. So many books are so much overread, like that of Milton and Fuller and Shakespeare, that their original books have perished and only the reprints of those books are available. And he says that original works have long since disappeared because of their prolific readership, because they have been read by a lot of people. The decay of old texts ensures the decaying posterity of their writers. So if a text is decaying, that means the decaying posterity means the decaying future generation of their writers. So that is why Eliab says that a decaying book is a good thing, since it reminds us of imperfection. So nobody is perfect, as the posterity of writers have expired, they have decayed. That is how their books have also decayed, and only their reprints are available. So a good book, if you choose a good book from a library or from a bookshop, that make sure that only a book which is well read decays soon. Okay, a book which is which has a good content and which is overread by generations of the writers and of the people is very much worn out and it doesn't look magnificent. So then he says that the one type of text that Elia has disdain for, though, is the newspaper. So again, what he says, that all the texts, all the writings are preferable to Elia, but what the single thing he doesn't like reading the newspaper. He says that it's impossible to put down a newspaper without feeling disappointed by the sensation of reading it. So the sensationalism which is used by the media, by the newspapers, is very disappointing to Charles Lamb, to Elia. And he reviles the habit in banks and barber shops of people reading newspaper articles out loud for others to hear. Elia closes on a different note. So he doesn't like people reading loudly, barber shops, and all the sensationalism that it implies. And he closes on a different note, saying that bemoaning books that are kept from the poor when people can't afford to buy them. So he says that it is a bad thing when poor people cannot buy books. So he bemoans on people's not capable of affording books that are very expensive. And he recounts a poem by an author he doesn't name, lamenting a boy who wants to read but is shooed away by a shop owner who complains that the boy never actually buys anything. So he is remembering a poem in which a boy demands a book from a shopkeeper and the shopkeeper shoos him away. So again, the author, the essayist, is very much in love with the idea of reading, of entertaining his mind with the ideas of another authors, with other books, and he is given an idea, an overview of how to distinguish between a good and a bad book. So what matters, what makes a book a good book, is the content, the construction of the book, rather than its appearance. So enough for today. Please go through the essay again. Thank you.